To big breaking news of America. Death Row Criminals Podcast Episode 11. Detailed report on Dontae Morris, Florida. Introduction. Dontae Rashawn Morris, born on August 24, 1985, in Tampa, Florida, is an American serial killer responsible for the deaths of 5 people between May and June 2010. His crimes, which included the murders of 2 Tampa police officers, shocked the community and garnered national attention. Morris was convicted in multiple trials, receiving both life sentences and the death penalty for his actions. His case became a focal point for discussions on crime, justice, and the death penalty in Florida, particularly after changes in state law affected his sentencing. This report provides an in-depth examination of Morris's background, the crimes he committed, the legal proceedings, the verdicts, his current status on death row, and the reactions from both his family and the public. 1. Basic details. Early life and background. Dontae Morris was born to a 16-year-old mother, Celestia Watson, who struggled with depression throughout her life. His father was murdered when Morris was just 2 years old, a crime that remains unsolved to this day. Raised in part by his ailing grandmother in Tampa, Florida, Morris experienced a turbulent childhood marked by frequent school changes and an unstable home environment. By his teenage years, he had become involved with the Blood Street Gang, a detail later confirmed by prison records. By 2013, Morris had a 7-year-old son, though little is known about his relationship with the child or the child's mother. Morris's family ties extended into unexpected areas of his story. His aunt, Carolyn Riggins, was employed by the Tampa Police Department until July 2010, when she was dismissed after it was discovered she had withheld information that could have led to Morris's earlier arrest following the murders of 2 police officers. This connection added a layer of complexity to his case, raising questions about loyalty and responsibility within his family. Criminal history prior to 2010. Before his infamous 2010 murder spree, Morris had a documented history of criminal activity. His record included drug-related offenses and check fraud, marking him as a convicted felon by the time he committed the murders that would define his legacy. This prior criminal behavior was later cited in court to portray him as a habitual offender with a propensity for violence, a narrative that influenced both his trials and sentencing. 2 crimes. Between May and June 2010, Dontae Morris committed a series of murders in Tampa, Florida, claiming the lives of 5 individuals. The victims ranged from civilians to law enforcement officers, and the crimes were characterized by their brutality and apparent lack of remorse. Below is a detailed account of each murder, including dates, locations, and circumstances. Murder of Derek Anderson, May 18, 2010. On May 18, 2010, 21-year-old Derek Anderson was walking home with a friend, Joe Anderson, in Tampa when they noticed a white car trailing them. As they approached the entrance to Derek's apartment complex, the car slowed, and Joe observed 4 men inside, one of whom he later identified as Dontae Morris. Moments later, a shot rang out, striking Derek in the back and killing him instantly. The motive was believed to stem from a dispute over drug territory, with Morris allegedly viewing Anderson as a rival encroaching on his operations. This murder marked the beginning of Morris's violent spree. Murder of Rodney Jones, May 31, 2010. 2 weeks later, on May 31, 2010, Morris struck again, this time targeting 42-year-old Rodney Scarface Jones outside the Cotton Club bar on North Albany Avenue in Tampa. Jones was exiting the nightclub when Morris approached, robbed him at gunpoint, and shot him dead. Text messages recovered from Morris's phone and witness testimonies later provided critical evidence linking him to the crime. The murder appeared to be a calculated act of robbery gone lethal, further establishing Morris's pattern of violence. Murder of Harold Wright, June 8, 2010. On June 8, 2010, Morris killed 25-year-old Harold Wright in the Palm River Claremelle area of Tampa. Wright was found next to his vehicle on 51st Street, having been robbed and shot in the head. Morris's fingerprints were discovered at the scene, and an acquaintance testified that Morris had expressed intent to rob Wright prior to the killing. Despite this evidence, the prosecution later dropped charges for this murder in December 2015, citing unspecified weaknesses in the case. Murders of Tampa police officers Jeffrey Kokab and David Curtis, June 29, 2010. The most notorious of Morris's crimes occurred on June 29, 2010, when he shot and killed Tampa police officers Jeffrey Kokab and David Curtis during a routine traffic stop in East Tampa. Morris was a passenger in a vehicle driven by his girlfriend, Courtney Brantley, when they were pulled over for missing license plates. Officer Curtis, upon running Morris's name, discovered an outstanding warrant, later found to be invalid, and called for backup. Officer Kokab arrived to assist, and as the two officers attempted to arrest Morris, he pulled a handgun and shot both in the head at close range, killing them instantly. The entire incident was captured on the dashboard camera of Curtis's patrol car, providing chilling and irrefutable evidence of Morris's actions. The footage showed Morris identifying himself to the officers before opening fire, a detail that underscored the premeditated nature of the killings. Following the murders, Morris fled the scene, triggering a massive manhunt that lasted 4 days. He was apprehended on July 2, 2010, at a law firm in South Tampa, bringing an end to a tense and widely publicized search. Summary of the crimes. Victims: Derek Anderson, 21, Rodney Jones, 42, Harold Wright, 25, Officer Jeffrey Kokab, 31, Officer David Curtis, 31. Dates: May 18, 2010, Anderson, May 31, 2010, Jones, June 8, 2010, Wright, June 29, 2010, Kokab and Curtis. Locations: various sites across Tampa, including apartment complexes, nightclubs, and public streets. Methods: gunshot wounds, predominantly to the head or back. Motives: drug disputes, robbery, and, in the officer's case, evading arrest. The murders of officers Kokab and Curtis, in particular, resonated deeply, viewed as a brazen assault on law enforcement. The dashcam footage became a cornerstone of the prosecution's case and a haunting symbol of Morris's ruthlessness. 3 trials. Dontae Morris faced multiple trials for the murders he was accused of committing, with each case handled separately due to the distinct nature of the crimes. The trials were marked by compelling evidence, emotional testimony, and legal complexities, particularly in the case involving the police officers. Below is a detailed overview of the key trials. Trial for the murder of Rodney Jones, 2012. Morris's first trial began in July 2012 for the murder of Rodney Jones. The prosecution relied heavily on text messages retrieved from Morris's phone and eyewitness accounts that placed him at the Cotton Club bar on the night of the killing. The defense offered little in the way of a counterargument, and after a brief deliberation, the jury convicted Morris of first-degree murder and attempted robbery. In March 2013, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 25 years for the robbery charge. Trial for the murders of officers Kokab and Curtis, 2013. The trial for the murders of officers Jeffrey Kokab and David Curtis commenced in November 2013 and was the most high-profile of Morris's legal proceedings. The prosecution presented the dashcam footage as its centerpiece, showing Morris shooting the officers after identifying himself. Additional evidence included ballistic reports confirming the murder weapon belonged to Morris and witness statements corroborating his presence at the scene. The defense made a feeble attempt to argue that Morris was not the individual in the video, a claim quickly dismantled by the clear audio and visual evidence. After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict on 2 counts of first-degree murder. In May 2014, Judge William Fuente sentenced Morris to death for each murder, citing the premeditated nature of the crimes and the victim's status as law enforcement officers. Trial for the murder of Derek Anderson, 2015. In 2015, Morris faced trial for the murder of Derek Anderson. The prosecution argued that Morris killed Anderson over a drug-related dispute, presenting cell phone records and witness testimonies, including that of Ashley Price, who claimed Morris confessed to her. The defense countered by highlighting the absence of direct eyewitnesses and questioning Price's credibility, given her own legal troubles. Despite these challenges, the jury convicted Morris of first-degree murder. In a perplexing outcome, the same jury found that Morris did not possess or discharge a firearm, a ruling Judge Fuente described as factually inconsistent with the murder conviction. Nevertheless, the jury recommended the death penalty by a vote of 10-2, and in 2015, Morris was sentenced to death for this crime. Trial for the murder of Harold Wright, charges dropped in 2015. Morris was initially charged with the murder of Harold Wright, supported by fingerprint evidence and witness testimony. However, in December 2015, the state attorney's office dropped the charges, citing weaknesses and evidence issues without further elaboration. This decision spared Morris an additional trial, though it did little to alter his overall fate given the convictions in the other cases. 4 verdicts. Dontae Morris was convicted in 3 separate trials for 4 of the 5 murders he was accused of committing. The verdicts and subsequent sentences reflect the severity of his crimes and the legal framework of Florida at the time. Below is a summary of the outcomes. Murder of Rodney Jones, 2013, convicted of first-degree murder and attempted robbery. Sentenced to life in prison without parole plus 25 years. Murders of officers Jeffrey Kokab and David Curtis, 2014, convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. Sentenced to death for each murder. Murder of Derek Anderson, 2015, convicted of first-degree murder. Initially sentenced to death, but this sentence was later vacated and commuted to life in prison. Impact of Florida's death penalty law changes. In 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in Hurst v. Florida invalidated Florida's death penalty process, which allowed non-unanimous jury recommendations for death sentences. In response, Florida revised its law to require unanimous jury recommendations. This change had a direct impact on Morris's case. In the Derek Anderson trial, the jury's 10-2 recommendation for death was deemed unconstitutional under the new standard. In 2018, the Florida Supreme Court vacated this death sentence, and in 2021, Morris was sentenced to life in prison for Anderson's murder. Conversely, in the case of officers Kokab and Curtis, the jury had unanimously recommended death, and the Florida Supreme Court affirmed these sentences in 2021, leaving Morris on death row for those murders. Current legal status. As of May 18, 2025, Dontae Morris is serving life sentences for the murders of Rodney Jones and Derek Anderson, while remaining on death row for the murders of officers Kokab and Curtis. His appeals in the officers' case were rejected by the Florida Supreme Court in 2021, solidifying his death penalty status. He is currently incarcerated at Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida. 5. Execution status. Morris's execution status hinges on his death sentences for the murders of officers Kokab and Curtis. While the death sentence for Derek Anderson's murder was vacated, the sentences for the officers' murders remain intact. Florida's death penalty process, however, is notoriously protracted, with inmates often spending decades on death row due to appeals and procedural delays. As of May 18, 2025, no execution date has been scheduled for Morris. The Florida Supreme Court's 2021 affirmation of his death sentences marked a significant milestone, but the execution process could still be years away. Factors such as ongoing legal reviews, changes in lethal injection protocols, and the state's history of slow death penalty implementation suggest that Morris may remain on death row for an extended period. 6. Family reactions. Morris's family. Morris's family, particularly his mother, Celestia Watson, has spoken publicly about his troubled upbringing and mental health struggles. During the penalty phases of his trials, Watson testified about the murder of Morris's father when he was 2, her battles with depression, and the instability of his childhood. She also claimed that Morris had exhibited signs of mental distress, including hearing voices, in the months before the 2010 murders. These statements were intended to mitigate his punishment, but they failed to sway the juries, who recommended death in multiple cases. In 2019, Morris's legal team sought a new trial, arguing that his mental health had not been adequately explored during the original proceedings. The courts rejected this motion, and since then, Morris's family has largely retreated from public view, leaving their current sentiments unclear. Victims' families. The families of Morris's victims have been vocal in their pursuit of justice, particularly the widows of officers Kokab and Curtis. Kelly Curtis, widow of Officer David Curtis, expressed relief after the 2014 death sentencing, stating, "This sentence was about justice, not revenge." Sarah Kokab, widow of Officer Jeffrey Kokab, has attended numerous court hearings and supported the prosecution's efforts to maintain the death penalty. The civilian victims' families also found solace in the verdicts. Wanda Gilchrist, mother of Derek Anderson, said after Morris's conviction, "It was a long time coming. I'm full of joy right now. I got the verdict that I wanted to hear." These reactions underscore the profound loss felt by the victims' loved ones and their satisfaction with the judicial outcomes. 7. Public reaction. The public response to Dontae Morris's crimes was immediate and intense, particularly following the murders of officers Kokab and Curtis. The dashcam footage, broadcast widely by media outlets, horrified the Tampa community and galvanized support for law enforcement. Vigils and memorials honored the fallen officers, and the case sparked national conversations about the risks faced by police and the appropriateness of the death penalty. The trials, especially the one for the officers' murders, received extensive media coverage, with the dashcam video replayed as a stark reminder of Morris's actions. The swift guilty verdicts and death sentences were met with widespread approval, with many viewing Morris as a dangerous criminal who deserved the ultimate punishment. However, the case also exposed fault lines in Florida's justice system. The 2016 change in death penalty law, which led to the vacating of Morris's death sentence in the Anderson case, prompted debates about fairness and consistency in capital punishment. Some criticized the system's reliance on non-unanimous jury decisions, while others argued that Morris's crimes warranted execution regardless of legal technicalities. Conclusion. Dontae Morris's case is a sobering tale of violence, loss, and justice in Florida. His 2010 murder spree, which claimed 5 lives, including those of 2 police officers, left an indelible mark on Tampa and beyond. The legal proceedings that followed, spanning multiple trials, verdicts, and appeals, highlight the complexities of Florida's death penalty system, particularly in light of evolving legal standards. As of May 18, 2025, Morris remains on death row, his fate tied to the murders of officers Kokab and Curtis, while his family and the public continue to process the aftermath of his actions. Thank you for watching Big Breaking News of America. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more news updates. Share our channel with your friends and family members, leave a like for more videos and express your thoughts under comment section.